everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm Jordan and I just had a baby. This is Robin Louise. She was born on April 18th at 3:52 a.m. She was 6 pounds 7 ounces. We are just in love. As I'm recording today, she is just shy of 3 weeks old, and I wanted to share my birth story while it is still fresh in my mind, because I can already feel like it's becoming this like weird dream state that happened, and my sense of time and things that happened is already getting really fuzzy. I listened to so many birth stories while I was pregnant, and it was so helpful hearing other women's experience going through it. I was reminded when I was going through it myself, like all these women did it. I had less fear going into it because I was aware of so many different scenarios, knowing that mine would still be my own and not exactly like anyone else's, but it just was really helpful. So here I am sharing mine in case it is helpful to anyone else. This birth story starts on April 17th. It's a Wednesday, so work day. Woke up that morning, headed into clinic. I work full-time every day, pretty much 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. My due date was April 25th, 38 weeks and 6 days. Following with the midwives at our university hospital system, we had our 37-week check the week before. I didn't get checked. I didn't know if I was dilated or how far along I was or anything like that. Wasn't really feeling any major Braxton Hicks contractions. I, maybe every once in a while would have like some period type cramps that were very mild and didn't really feel like much to me. Just kind of, a little bit of, some things going on, a lot of pressure down in my pelvis because her head was definitely down. We did know that. Go into work that morning. The morning started off pretty normal. I did, however, at I think it was around 9 a.m., I went back to my office in between patients, and I had this sitting at my computer, I had this major wave of nausea that I had not had since first trimester. And honestly, it was even stronger than the ones that I had had first trimester. Pretty mild to moderate, I would say, from nausea wise from my first trimester. This was to the point where I really thought I was gonna get sick, which was very strange because I had not had that, obviously. So went to the bathroom, didn't end up getting sick. I just kind of ran my hands under cold water and kind of just took some breaths, let it pass. I thought maybe it was because I had been staring at the screen all morning. I think I had a couple video patients that morning and was maybe standing, sitting, standing, sitting. So just thought maybe I was a little off. I think I got, something to eat and was fine. Went back to work, proceeded throughout the rest of the work day. A new patient from 3 to 4 p.m. Our new patients get an hour with us, and I was sitting at the computer, working with the patient, kind of wrapping up the appointment. As I was sitting there, just kind of, I think we were talking about the follow-up appointment, and I was putting in the information about the follow-up into the computer, and I felt my water break. Best way I know how to describe what that feels like, it literally feels like if a water balloon was inside you, it popped. That's what it feels like. It was very obvious that it was not me peeing myself, which certainly can happen in pregnancy, but it was very clearly my water breaking. It wasn't like a huge gush, but it was enough to, definitely me be like, oh yeah, the back of my dress is gonna be, there's gonna be some water there. I very casually, hopefully it was pretty casual and not noticeable, got up, wrapped up the appointment, backed out of the room so that she couldn't see behind me. I didn't want to alarm the patient at all. I just, it was great timing that it was about to wrap up. Raced by the nurse's station as fast as I could to the bathroom before anyone could see me, because I just wanted to see okay, am I sure that this is what that is? As I would get up and down or move, I could feel more gushes kind of coming out. So it wasn't one big gush, but I could feel that there was more and more coming as with different movements that I was making. As I got my stuff and went back through the clinic, I had actually one more patient that day. I found our lead medical assistant. It was hey, my water just broke. And she was all right. She was so calm and just so wonderful. She's okay, you gotta go. Got in my car and I called my husband first. I called Jack first, let him know, do I go to the hospital? What do I do? Because actually where I work is very close to the hospital where I was going to deliver. And then my home is about 45 to an hour away based on traffic, and we were like kind of headed into rush hour traffic time. Like I said, it was like 4:30 at this point. I called midwife on call. I already like was driving home because I was like, I just want to go home. I want to get out of this wet outfit and I just want to, because I wasn't feeling any contractions. I wasn't feeling anything else. It was just my water that broke. I really want to go home. My goal was to labor at home as long as possible. And I did have my hospital bag packed. I had interestingly packed it the night before, but it was at home. I wanted to eat something. I wanted to see my dogs. I wanted to, you know, I just wanted to go home. I called and she asked me a couple questions, asked me what time it happened, you know, what I was experiencing, what my group B strep status was, and I was thankful that I was group B strep negative. She said, well, you've got 12 hours to play with before you need to be at the hospital. So water broke, I just kind of said right at 4 p.m. And she said, you have, you know, until 4 a.m. you need to be at the hospital. Said, you know, what you might want to do is wait, you know, go home, you know, wait and maybe come in around 8 p.m. if you don't want to come in the middle of the night, or you don't want to be coming in like that early in the morning. Or she was like, you could come in now. But the risk with coming in early and not having any contractions yet was more likely that I was going to need Pitocin started. And that was not something I was against, but wanted to avoid if I could. Proceeded to go home. There was a little bit of traffic. I just put on some music. I was trying to like move my hips around, move my body around, stay in a really like positive mind space, and like, but just also like I really wanted to get labor going. Still didn't really feel anything when I was in the car on the way home. Got home, Jack had taken the dogs for a walk. I just wanted to stay moving throughout the house. I obviously changed my clothes, was doing our steps down to our basement, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I cleaned all the dishes, I cleaned the kitchen. I was going into like major just movement, nesting, focus mode. I got dinner going. I put some chicken in the oven. We had some sweet potato, some either like asparagus or broccoli, I forget, like pretty typical dinner for us. 6 p.m. started to feel some of those period cramps. Pretty mild to moderate, nothing that I hadn't experienced before, but I kind of started to feel them coming. We kind of both decided, well, let's just wait as long as possible. You know, if we don't have to go in until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., let's do that. Let's sleep in our own bed, and we're no stranger to getting up early. We could set the alarm for 2:30 and get up and go at that point. If I can sleep, then let's sleep. I think I tried, yeah, I called the midwife on call again, like around 8. And again, those period cramps, like the contractions were kind of happening, but they were so mild to moderate. I was trying so hard to time them with a timing contraction app. I just really couldn't even time them. They would like come, but they would stay for a long period. I don't know, it just was so strange. If anyone else had a really hard time timing their contractions, let me know in the comments, because I was not expecting that. It was just, I could not time them for the life of me. I could not tell when one started, one ended. I could tell when I didn't have anything, and that would happen sometimes, and then I would get like a really big wave, but it would last and last and last. So very irregular and just not something I could even time. So I called the midwife to let her know that, because I was like, you know, maybe they'll want me to come in, maybe not, and kind of shared that feedback with her. And she was like, yeah, I would just stay at home, you know, maybe call me back around 10, 11 p.m. So that was our plan. We got in bed around 9 p.m. and the contractions were definitely building, but I still thought like I could probably fall asleep. I was in bed probably all of 20 minutes before I had to get out of bed. I just could not lay there. I was trying to lay on my side. I could not lay there at all. I wanted Jack to be able to sleep as much as possible. So I went to our guest bedroom and got into was trying different positions that I thought might be helpful. Went and sat in the bathroom, sat on the toilet, because that's a really great way to like just release and let go, let the pelvic floor relax. So I did that for a while. Again, kept trying to time them with my contraction app, and I just, it was stupid. It was silly. Like there would be one that was like, felt like it was 10 minutes long, and then one that was only 30 seconds long, and I'd felt like they were just continuous, but then every once in a while I would get these like really big waves. I don't know, it made no sense at all to me based on everyone else's account of timing their contractions. It just seemed like they had very clear, like, it's building, it's here, and now it's gone. Mine just seemed to never fully go away. My first time, my water had broken. I just don't know if that was normal or what that was all about, but I could not time them. 10:30, things got really intense to the point where I started to get sick. I started to vomit. It happened once. I thought I was okay, got some water, brushed my teeth, went back on the guest room bed and was trying to just move through more contractions. And then it happened again. All right, I'm really starting to feel like I need some support. I don't want to be alone right now and continue to go through this. Around 11 p.m., I woke Jack up and I was like, hey, I think we need to go to the hospital. Car ride was, honestly, it was rough, but not terrible. There was no traffic, which was great. It was the middle of the night. Jack did a great job getting me there. Did my breathing through the contractions. He was making me laugh and we were talking, and so it went by pretty quickly. Since it was after hours, you have to go through the emergency department. It was so funny because like when I went through the emergency department, I very clearly was in labor, and it was like the Red Sea parting. Like everyone was, there's a lot of people in the emergency department in the middle of the night, which, you know, is unfortunate. Security guy even was like, you guys go ahead. They do not want to be delivering babies down in the emergency department. They want you up in labor and delivery. So they try to get rid of you as quick as possible. Jack had just parked right out front and they were like, no, you gotta go park in the parking garage. He had to leave me, go park in the parking garage while they took me up to labor and delivery, took me into a triage room. And I remember getting into that room and I was just by myself, and they, you know, just laid out a gown and laid out the hospital socks. And I didn't have my bag with me because Jack had the bags in the car. And I had brought, you know, like my own hospital gown, my own fuzzy socks and all this stuff. I was like, well, that's out the window. So I was like, whatever, I'll just go with the flow, you know? I was like, I don't even know if I can get this gown on myself. I don't even know if I can undress myself. I was that far along with how bad these contractions were. They hooked me up to the monitors around my belly so they could monitor baby's heart rate. To do that for 20 minutes just to see how baby is tolerating labor, which I knew was gonna be really hard because you can't move around much. You kind of have to be on your back, otherwise the monitor kind of moves around. She was so far down, the monitor was way far down, and it kept like slipping. They kept missing time. And anyway, I ended up being on the monitor for a lot longer than 20 minutes just because they need a full 20 minutes, but it kept like kind of coming off. And then she had to check me to see, you know, did my water really break? How far along am I? Very reassuring. She's like, oh, I don't even need to do this test. I can tell your water broke and you're at least 5 centimeters. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, cool, we're over probably halfway there. So reassuring to hear that, like, okay, everything that I did at home was, you know, not for nothing. Things are progressing, my body's doing what it needs to do. And they were able to move me to a labor and delivery room. We had the most lovely nurses. They were super, super sweet. I still had to be on the monitor once I got to that room, so I was still laying on my back. They must have read my birth preferences that I had gone over with the other midwife, because they knew that I kind of wanted to try the water. They do the tubs at the hospital where I delivered. She asked me, she's like, do you want to try that? And I was like, yeah, I really do. It told me that it might be difficult for them to do the tubs just because the hospital where I was is an older building and the water temperature and water pressure is not always consistent. God love these nurses. They were trying so hard to get this tub filled up for me. At one point they were like bringing buckets of water in from the other room. I felt like that is so nice. I have no words. They just were trying so hard to help me have that experience. The water does have to be at a certain level for it to be safe for you to deliver in. So they did have kind of like a goal of where they needed to get the water, and it just was not happening. In the meantime, I finally got off the monitor. The midwife who was on duty for that night came in, introduced herself. She was actually the one that I had spoken with earlier in the afternoon. So she introduced herself and she was in there a lot. She assessed me. I'm gonna guess she checked me around 132-ish, and I was 8 centimeters at that point, definitely progressing fast. And I think at that point she kind of put the kibosh on the tub, because she was like, this is not going to happen. Things were getting really intense. I like, you know, really couldn't talk. I was having to do my deep, low, like moaning breathing that Jack calls like my exorcist breathing. It was kind of our joke. I tried getting on a birth ball that they had in the room for a little while, ended up in the bathroom, again, back on, oh, hello, back on the toilet, just to like, that was really comforting. I was kind of sitting there, Jack was there with me, and I started to feel like with the contraction, like a pushing, like bearing down sensation that I could not control. And you could hear it in my breath, like me kind of pushing down. And the midwife looked into the room and she's like, are you feeling like you need to push? And I was like, not, I said a little bit, but just with the contraction, because she asked me if it was like happening constantly. And I said, no, just like with a little bit of the contraction. And so she let me stay there for a little bit longer. And then I think she finally, I remember her saying like, we're not gonna have a baby in the toilet. I need you to, you know, get back on the bed so I can check you. Eventually, I think a couple more contractions, and then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get back on the bed. No, I think I was like in an all fours position for a minute. I wanted to try that. She had left the room. Then when she came back in, she checked me and I was at 10 centimeters, ready to go. I ended up trying at first to push on all fours. I don't know, it felt okay. It was better than being on my back, that's for sure. The midwife was like, let's try on your side. So she had me flip to my side, so I was facing Jack, and then the nurses were kind of like helping like stabilize my leg. And I ended up pushing for about, Jack thinks it was like an hour and a half. It seemed like it was faster than that, but also slow. I remember just thinking like I wanted the contractions at that point, even though they were so uncomfortable. I knew that with each one I was progressing, like I could feel the progression happening. It kind of was like a combo of natural, like me just kind of feeling when to push, but also some coached pushing from my midwife and the nurses, which I found helpful. I you know, really wanted to feel like that natural feeling of just like my body pushing her out. But I also, again, like first time mom, I had never done this before, felt the urge to push, but also they helped me kind of work with my breathing and really like gave me a lot of encouragement when to push and gave me a lot of that feedback that I needed. So I found that very helpful. In between the contractions, in between pushing, they really encouraged me to do a lot of like deep breathing. They were saying, you know, like get oxygen to your baby, and I would just like breathe and look at Jack, and that's kind of what I did to cope. Started saying, you know, you're gonna have this baby out within like the next 1 or 2. Please don't be lying to me, like please. And at one point they were like, oh my gosh, she has so much hair. And that was just so relieving. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so we're at the point that she can feel, like we can see that she has hair. And she asked me if I wanted to feel it, and I like felt down and I could feel that she, you know, I could feel her head with her little hair on top. And I was like, oh, that it just was, having that feedback was so helpful. Another thing I tried to remember to do was to keep my jaw really relaxed, because there's a connection between like the relaxation of your jaw and the relaxation of your pelvic floor. So I really tried to do that. She was about to come out. They actually did kind of like guide me to flip onto my back in that kind of like traditional birthing position. I think her head was out at that point, and just kind of help her, guide her all the way out. And she did, she just kind of like came all the way out. Like I flipped onto my back, and within the next push she was like up on my chest. And that's probably why they did it, because they wanted to be able to like have her up on my chest. So they had me flip around so that I was like ready, because they knew she was about to come out. Within like 10 seconds was crying. We did delayed cord clamping. We waited until it stopped pulsing, and Jack cut her cord. And then we had to deliver the placenta, which was not bad. It just kind of like, those contractions are kind of still there, and it's kind of like you felt so much relief when she comes out, but like that full state of relief once the placenta is out. So that came out pretty easily within like, I would say 4 to 6 pushes. Opt for Pitocin right after birth, just to help prevent postpartum hemorrhage, and I was totally fine with that. But you do continue to kind of feel contractions when the Pitocin is dripping, and I was so ready for that to be over. I was like watching it. I was ready for it to be done. I did have one 1st-degree tear and then one very superficial tear, which I really never felt when I was pushing. I never felt that tear happen. No epidural, so she did give me an injection of lidocaine to help numb while she was stitching that up. It didn't really feel like a whole lot. It felt more like maybe a little bit of tugging. It wasn't bad at all. It wasn't like an intense pain or like a stinging or any type of strange sensation. It was nothing compared to just having birthed her, if that helps. Worried about, you know, any potential stitching or repair that has to be done of tears without an epidural. Just know that for me, it was totally fine. Again, they do use lidocaine and I think it did its job. Immediately after birth, like, I could get up. After, you know, we had lots of skin to skin time, she moved over to be with Jack for a little bit. The nurse got me up, we went to the bathroom and she showed me how to, like, you know, use create like a really cool like pad sickle, and she gave me all the supplies, tried to help me go to the bathroom for the first time. And I was just like, I can't believe like within an hour I'm up moving around, feel so much relief and not a lot of pain. It just was such a blessing. I was so elated, even though I had been up all night. I had all this like adrenaline and energy and excitement running through me. We stayed in the labor and delivery room for about 2 hours before moving to our postpartum room. Wheeled us up to postpartum, I think around like 6:30, 7 in the morning. We're in the hospital for another 24 hours. We went home. So that was a Thursday. She was born on Thursday morning. We went home Friday afternoon. That was just kind of a whirlwind. She was up the entire Thursday night, like just trying to figure out breastfeeding. There was no sleep for a good, I don't know, what would that be? 48 to 72 hours. No sleep. That is our birth story. My channel is really all about healthy living, anti-inflammatory diet, women's health and hormones. I did record a what I eat in a day during my 3rd trimester. I just never got a chance to edit it and upload it. That would be something you guys would want to see. It was just kind of like my diet and what I was really focusing on during pregnancy. If you want to see any of those things or have any burning questions about my birth story, any details that I didn't share that I can shed light on my experience, please let me know. Happy to share in the comments. Hopefully see you all again very soon. Bye.